2020 there's no question, has been probably the craziest year of my existence. The separation of coronavirus and election, it has just been such a tough, toxic mix for so many people. And I think there's, I feel a lot of weariness and at times a certain amount of despair over that. And I've been thinking and reflecting on the verse where Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they'll be called the sons of God." And I never realized how hard peacemaking was until this year. And maybe even the sense of feeling a little hopeless. What struck me was that in that moment was it as if God said, if you're called to be a peacemaker, you need conflict. Almost as if God was saying, you should expect, Aaron, that you're going to be in the middle of a lot of conflict. And even that tiny little bit was helpful enough to know that, okay, the darkness, we don't have to run away from the darkness. Christ didn't run away from the darkness. He ran into it and he gave his life. And so that gives us some hope, and it gives me some confidence that we can go there too, and that same resurrection power that was there in Christ's very dark grave is there and gives us hope, and can give us hope that even our darkest moments in our culture can be raised up, can be changed. Me and a couple of the black pastors locally were concerned about what could happen in York based on our own history, our own racial tensions in York. And so we started the cops and clergy, or the chiefs and clergy, 4 years ago because we said we need dialogue, we need relationships. Over the 4 years, I've watched relationships between our leaders of color and these chiefs, most of whom are white. I mean, these are two groups who right now really in our moment in the U.S. should not be getting along by worldly standards. And yet here they are, they're building relationships and they're coming closer together. So I found real encouragement in that. It's a glimmer. It's a tiny speck of God's glory in a really dark time. And sometimes you just need a glimmer of hope.
It started for us, our story, freshman in high school, and I met two of my best friends, Valen and Angie. Our freshman year, Valen got really, really sick and ended up over the next year having her kidneys removed and needing a transplant. My mom and sister were possible donors, and they both matched, but my mom was better. So my mom gave Valen a kidney, and fast forward 23 years later, married to Brandon, and we have kids and a family.
2018 for me, the story was we were already married with children at that time, and then I was laid off from my job unexpectedly. 2 months later, I found myself going for routine blood work and not feeling great, but also really depressed from being laid off. And now I can't support my family. So I wanted to get my health checked out while I could, and I did. And then the information that came back was that I was stage 4 kidney failure. And I got the call back from another set of blood work that I had done that they said that you are dying, that you're in terminal kidney failure. It's stage 5. There's no other options at this point but to look into dialysis methods.
I remember holding Brandon multiple times as he cried, and we cried, and he's so sick, and he doesn't know if he's going to see his kids grow up. And we are looking for a donor. We still have no income. And through it all, my friend Angie, again, rounding out the story back to Angie, she went to go get tested. And I'll never forget the phone call. She called me and said, "Emily, I'm a perfect match. Let's do this." And I was just silent for a while. And she's like, "Should I call Brandon?" I'm like, "Yeah. Call Brandon."
And amazingly so, it was her relationship with Angie from high school and the person that she is to be able to obtain and retain that relationship like that with such a wholesome person that is willing to get tested to give a kidney to my sister. And then 23 years later, be the first in line to be like, well, here we go again.
January 21st, 2020, we were in UMPC Pinnacle having a kidney transplant. And while it was scary, the community around us, the church community, friend community, my children's teachers community, anyone that even knew us just stepped up in ways that I couldn't even imagine.
I see through completely different eyes, and I have just so much to be grateful and thankful for, and I thought I did before. It really is impressive to feel as good as I feel and know that it was done through the hands of God.
I've always prayed that my husband will come to love attending church as much as I do. He has joined me more throughout this time to attend church in our living room than he has since I've started going to church. So that is just one of them blessings that I wasn't expecting, but it has happened and I'm really grateful.
In 2008, God called me to go to school to get my master's. I said okay, because I obey God, I don't mess with God. So, and my graduation ended up to be when COVID hit. So it was kind of a downer in a way, but I'm more excited about my transformation. I'm not the associate who started the program, and that's just incredible, incredible.
Well, before I turned to God, I was depressed. I was using marijuana every day. I was drinking. Me and my dad got in a lot of fights.
And it was just chaotic at home. It was very hard. You know, at times you get angry with God, like, why are you not answering this prayer? You know, why are we still going through this? Hard. It wasn't easy, but I just kept trusting and praying.
I ended up getting psychosis. I was pretty scared about 6 or 7 days, and I didn't get any sleep at all. And I ended up in the hospital.
And I was broken, and I was, you know, just crying out to God. And at that moment, I got my phone out, and I called every Christian that I knew and asked them to pray for my son and told them the entire story. At that moment, I didn't care who knew, because I just wanted my son to be better.
I remember just crying out to God day and night, telling him I'll change, and without God, I wouldn't have made it through.
Dylan, you know, will now ask me, hey, let's go for a drive and listen to a preacher, and so that's kind of what we do. And we just drive around, and it's such a contrast of what our life was, you know, 2 years ago to now, that we actually, you know, are growing in the Lord together. It
amazes me the fact that I could be forgiven for the things I've done. I don't deserve it. It just makes me praise God even more.
As small business owners in 2020, it's gone from being a very scary year starting out to being just a wonderful, successful year of growth in businesses and actually increasing security. And I'm very thankful we've been able to help other people in the process.
I felt like the Lord kept on calling me to start a growth group with the ladies in the neighborhood.
While the ladies were doing their groups, I asked a couple of the guys, and we have started our own growth groups.
It's been awesome to see the people in my neighborhood that wouldn't have necessarily called themselves followers of Christ. They are definitely walking that path.
Getting baptized in August at our outdoor baptism has just been a time of growing and realizing all of the things that have happened and being able to thank God for all of them.
Jackson's surgery went perfectly well. We were just so thankful for God's hand in all of this.
I was walking up my sidewalk and I had a sharp pain within my stomach area. I collapsed, and that's the last I remembered for about a month and a half. All of the areas of my body were shut down except for my heart, my brain, and my lungs. Throughout some of these surgeries, they had lost me on the table. It got to the point one time that the surgeon called my daughter. Things were really looking bad for me. And he asked if she could get my loved ones together that night at 7 o'clock and do a Zoom call and say goodbye to me. I know my granddaughter was telling me how it'll be okay. 19-year-old grandson, he is in the Army National Guard. He prayed and pleaded with God why he should not take me. That night, things turned around about 2 a.m. in the morning. They pretty much considered that I had a miracle that night. I had the living word right there the whole way with me. If it wasn't for this church and the close friends I have, I might not be here today. You know, I can only tell you one thing: God does answer prayer. I was renewed. I was risen again, and it's all God. I owe everything in my life to God.
I work for an organization called Young Life in a branch called Young Lives. We have about 45 teen moms in York County that we serve right now. 2020 has been hard for everybody. For teen moms, it can be pretty difficult. A lot of them, have lost their job and couldn't find childcare because all daycare's closed. They couldn't find ways to get diapers. We actually had an opportunity to serve a lot of tangible needs. A Living Word really pitched in big time and helped donate a lot of diapers. And me and my volunteer leaders would spend hours and hours just driving around York County delivering diapers to teen moms. And we got to meet a lot of teen moms that we wouldn't have met outside of COVID. I get to spend every day telling other young moms that Jesus loves them anyway and always. I think the most beautiful thing on this side of heaven, getting to walk with someone in their journey when they move from death to life.
My story has been moved certainly by COVID-19 along with everybody else's in the world. And before the COVID-19, there were 55,000 people who were food insecure. We know that number is probably closer to 100,000 people now. And to know that there's that many people in York County that are food insecure is profound for me. And what can I do from a missional perspective to reach out and touch those people who need food right now? And we have the ability to be able to do that. And so I found a place with the food bank that I could work 4 days a week and encourage other volunteers to come and serve the community by actually giving food to people that are food insecure. We have had over 10,000 hours of volunteers since COVID-19 started. That's been amazing to me that we've had that many hours of volunteers, people taking their own time to come and minister to others, and that's given me great hope that we've had that many people who want to step up and help. And I just encourage people to step out. It's so much better to be able to give and have gratitude about what God's done for us and provided for us, even in the midst of a horrible thing like this pandemic.
I think when the pandemic hit and school was shut down, many educators across our country, our worlds were just truly rocked. It was a really challenging time, I know for me. Felt like I kind of lost my identity of who I was. And I know educators right now are working the hardest they've probably ever worked right now. And many of them are questioning maybe their profession or why they're doing this. But year 9 of education, I still feel passionate and strong about it. To have this opportunity to still be teaching children each day and inspiring them and providing hope to them even amidst the craziness. When I have God with me and in education and teaching, I feel like I'm a stronger teacher and a person and a leader for my community and my school and my family.
March 30th, I received a phone call from my boss. And within 41 seconds, literally 41-second phone call, 30 years of a job was gone. Didn't know how to react to that. It was very, just mind-blowing. And then 2 days later, I get another phone call from my brother. It tells me my father just passed away. So within a matter of 3 days, I lost a job, I lost my father. Didn't really know how to grasp all of that, or even how to react to it all. Just kind of like in shock. In a matter of about 3 weeks, trying to deal with no job, helping my brother settle in a state back in South Dakota where my father passed away, getting my mother packed up so she could move with my brother to Houston, Texas, and then having to drive from South Dakota back to Pennsylvania during the COVID, not knowing is there going to be a place to get gas, is there going to be a place to even stop to eat, a hotel, anything, and he carried me through. He carried my wife and I through this. We think about it now. There are a lot of blessings that we're looking at that have just been coming and pouring in on us. And that's what kind of kept me going through everything. God is faithful. He is still there. No matter what he's doing, he's pulled through all the time.
Sent home to work from home and then being furloughed from work and just being isolated and dealing with some mental health issues where I was just getting very depressed. Nancy from church called me and she said there was a couple that wanted to open their home to someone who was struggling, and it was this lady and her husband, and it was God opening a door through them. And God has been so good to me. He's provided everything I've needed. And I'm very grateful.
We came from very different backgrounds. I was raised within the church my whole life. I have a very strong faith. And Joe was...
I was a self-proclaimed atheist. I was mad at God for a lot of reasons. A lot of traumatic things happened to me in my childhood. And was just filled with a lot of hate.
His brother and sister-in-law actually come to Living Word and had written his name on the cement as a prayer. He asked to come one Sunday, and I think it was the next week his brother told us that he had written his name on the cement.
Never would have expected to walk through those doors. You know, and through God's hand on me and her and my brother, family praying for me, I'm here.
And we just continue to follow Christ, come to church, worship, and grow as a couple.
I just really want other people to see the love that I know God has for me and just kind of show that to other people too.
3 back operations, and God's been good.
It all just fell together, like God's hand was leading us through it all.
Definitely not the way that I pictured things coming together.
Yeah.
In beautiful ways.
Well, starting in February, actually, 2 days before my son's 25th birthday, he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of cancer. That really shook our world. We didn't know what to think. Why was this happening? That's basically, you know, how the year began. Initially, neither one of us were able to go inside with him because of COVID. And then finally, they started allowing me to come in. We navigated it through the pandemic. I felt like God kind of moved in that realm for us. He provided us a tremendous support system with friends and family. You know, God is faithful. He went on his last treatment. He's been cleared cancer-free. He doesn't have to do radiation. You know, we just saw how God moved in that circumstance. I always say that, you know, the medicine works on the symptoms, but it's our faith that works on the cure. And God did that for us. This church, I can't even begin to just thank them enough, because they were always there. God just always reminds me that He is my source and He is my strength. And regardless of what I'm facing or how I feel, that gives me solace to know that He's there for me. And what He did for me years ago, delivering me from drugs and alcohol, He's still in the miracle working business. And I'm grateful for it.
Living Word family.
It's been a difficult year.
But even through the challenges of 2020,
there are still wonderful
and good things God is doing.
Things worth celebrating
and sharing.
You may have heard my story.
But you all have a story to tell too.
God is working in your life.
He has not given up on you,
your family,
or this nation.
And we will make it through together.
As a family.
God is still good.
God will always be with us.
The Lord has done great things for us.
and we are filled with joy.